Hey everybody, how's it going? It is Saturday morning and I'm riding out to meet Tristan. Right now I'm on day 2 of what I'm trying to do, and that's 1,000 kilometers in the next 7 days. Purely, if you watch the bar tape video, at the end, I mentioned that Stefan Mastallo, my coach from Spokes, had offered this as a bit of a challenge. He was like, well, you need to find something to motivate yourself. Why not try this? Proper old school distance-based cycling. 135 kilometers yesterday, so 865 to go. Do something like that every day, it's well achievable.
I'm going to stop this video right there and tell you that I didn't film a huge amount on the bike, partly because the weather wasn't always that great. I was a little bit worried I was going to get the camera wet. Also, I was simply preoccupied by enjoying the ride. But anyway, here's some of the highlights from the last few days, and then come back in just a minute where I'm going to talk you through just what the week entailed, exactly how it was, recovery tips and things like that. Taking Tristan for his first day trip down to Land's End.
First day out.
We're back for day 4. Day 4 for me. Tristan's on day 4, but a slightly different day 4, because yesterday was your first proper 10-mile challenge trial for a few years, wasn't it?
Yeah, first one for a good 2 years at least, I'd say.
Sore legs?
Yes.
Yeah. Good. We haven't just got one member of the Davies family this morning. We've also got Tristan's dad, Paul.
So day 5. It's probably the best weather so far actually. I'm wildly overdressed. Can definitely afford to take some of this kit off later. My legs are a little bit tired. Done quite a few hours. So we rode with the Great Tour group. You watch that video to learn a little bit more. And it's been long days on the bike, very, very hilly roads, deceptively hard. And my legs are definitely feeling fatigued. Well fueled though. Eating a lot, had a lot of good food, a few nice drinks. It's been an amazing 4 days. We've barely gotten wet actually, which is quite rare for August in Cornwall, if I'm really honest. If you've ever been on holiday here, you'll know that. Today I feel like trying to get a good 200 kilometers out of the way. Whether or not that's going to happen, I don't know, but I've kind of left myself with 148 kilometers to go on average for the next 3 days. So the more I can do today, the less I need to do tomorrow in the rain.
Welcome to Cornwall, where the roads are not wide. Look at this, wing mirrors tucked in and everything. You see cars not scraping down both hedges. It's not a real Cornish lane. Plenty of passing paces.
It's day 7 and I only have 80 something kilometers to go, about 85 kilometers left to go.
Ridden to the top of Cornwall, to the hardest road in Cornwall, which is on the clay pits, 300 meters, 310 meters, something like that above sea level, so not very high at all. We've only come up here to check out the views, haven't we?
Look at the vista.
Yeah, 360 panoramic view. 30k to go.
365 days of the year is like this.
Obviously I've made it home, I've recovered, it's now the day after. Don't feel too bad if I'm completely honest. Let's run through some numbers for the week gone by. In total, it was 1,005.2 kilometers, which is 624.6 miles, with a total duration of 40 hours and 9 minutes. Going down through the screen, elevation. So the meters climbed, 15,198 meters climbed, which is just under 50,000 feet, so 49.8 thousand feet. Longest ride of the week was 201.6 kilometers, which is 125 miles. That was also the fastest ride, where I averaged just over 30 kilometers an hour. The hilliest ride was again the same as the long ride, 2,869 meters of climbing, 9,412 feet of climbing. The average speed for the entire week was 25 kilometers an hour, 15.5 miles an hour. Now I know that doesn't sound particularly fast, but if I'm really honest, I don't know how much faster I could have gone. Obviously we joined in with the Great Tour for the first 4 days, and whilst that did make a slight dent on the average speed, those routes were really quite hilly actually, if I'm honest, and they're on tiny lanes. So whilst the average speed for those rides was around the 12 miles an hour or the 20 kilometers an hour, in reality, if I was going at the pace that I'd been sustaining for the rest of the week, probably wouldn't have been much faster. So maybe 27 kilometers an hour for the entire week, 17 miles an hour at a push. It's just not that sort of thing that you do real fast, is it? Total calories burned, 24,323 calories at an average cadence of 73 revolutions per minute, average heart rate 130 beats per minute, and the max heart rate was 188 beats per minute, and that was on the Saturday when I rode pretty much as fast as possible to get down to the start. Sorry, Tristan.
We'll get there on time. We'll have to ride hard to do it.
Yeah. So, things that I learned along the way. Well, I reminded myself that it's always your contact points on the bike that are going to start to feel the ride first. So if you do your shoes up too tight, your feet are going to start to hurt. Your hands, I mean, I'm not a big fan of gloves. Towards the end of the week, I could definitely feel that I've been holding onto the bars for 7 days, for 40 hours. And your saddle, you know, there's no getting away from it. I actually lowered my saddle a little bit as the week went on. Only half a centimetre, but I was just getting to the point where my legs were getting a little bit stiff, so actually overreaching for the pedals, well, not overreaching, but in the state that I was in, it just became that little bit more uncomfortable than I perhaps would have liked. But, you know, it's a saddle. You're not meant to sit on that party body for that long, are you, really? So what did I learn about the week gone by? Well, I think one of the most important things that I learned was that actually recovery is really crucial. So at the start of the week, I wasn't paying a huge amount of attention to what I was eating and what I was drinking. So I noticed that alcohol has a severe effect on your sleep. By tracking my sleep on the watch, I did notice that actually it's having a knock-on effect to how I'm recovering overnight and into the next day, meaning that as the week went on, I definitely stopped drinking. And I felt actually, as the week went on, a little bit better as well. And I think that's because I started to pay attention to what I was doing. So it rekindled my passion for paying attention to what I'm doing on the bike and off the bike, and I think that's quite important. That was what this week was all about, really. Having a big goal, a big motivation, something that I couldn't really escape from, meaning that I was going to have to pay attention to what I was doing, and I'm really pleased that that's worked out, because I actually feel a lot fitter for having done it as well. You get this really nice feeling of connectivity to the bike, which you don't get when you only ride, you know, for 10 to 12 hours a week. I personally feel like my legs are just turning and I know exactly what to expect from my muscles. Talking about muscles, they definitely started to hurt towards the end of the week. It was kind of, I said to Steve on the last day, I felt like someone had punched me in the quads and in my glutes. You know, the muscles are just a little bit dead. There's not a lot of energy left in them. There's not a lot of zip or life in them. However, when it came to doing sprints, I did them in the saddle. I didn't actually notice a drop off in power. So yeah, there's maybe a couple of 100 watts, but that's not abnormal when you've ridden all week. So can't complain at that. Would I do it again? Yes, 100%. So actually riding the 1,000 kilometers in a week is so much easier than doing that 422 kilometer ride that I did back in June. It's almost incomparable, really. That long ride in June really demanded something from me that I'm not sure that I had to give, sitting on a bike for that long, mentally or physically. It was enjoyable and it wasn't challenging at the time, but I remember waking up the next day feeling absolutely broken. I say it wasn't challenging, that's perhaps not quite true. That last hour and a half was a real strain. But it was a lot easier doing it in bite-sized chunks. So, you know, on average, I only had to ride 150 kilometers or 90 miles roughly each day. And that's actually a lot more manageable than going out and riding over 260 miles in a day or 420 kilometers. It's a big difference to how you feel at the end of it. And I think, if I'm really honest, I preferred the 1,000 kilometer training week. So what is the 1,000 kilometer training week all about? Well, as written by Stefan on my Training Peaks, it was kind of the way that professional cyclists could gauge their form going into the season. Not gauge their form as such, but it was a way of proving that they were ready. They had the capacity there, they had the ability to recover day to day, and it meant they were ready to take on those early season races. Is it a thing these days still? Well, yes and no. I mean, it sort of has its place, as in sometimes you're going to do big training volume and it's going to be a large block, but it's unlikely you're ever going to focus in on that 1,000 kilometer training week. It's a good goal to have, and I can completely understand why they would have done it, but these days we've got so many different ways of measuring data that it actually kind of has faded into the background, and also the relevance of riding that far in a week has sort of dropped off a little bit as races have changed as well. Races aren't always as long as they used to be and things like that. What was really cool for me was that actually in all the years I've ridden a bike, as far as I can tell, I've gone back through all of my training diaries that I have online, that was actually the longest week of training I've ever done. I don't know that I've ever done 40 hours before in 7 days. Now, obviously, if you look online, you won't see that I've done one big week. I started last Friday, meaning I had 3 days in last week, and I finished on Thursday this week, this being the start of September. Would I recommend someone doing this challenge themselves? Yeah, I think I probably would. So going back to that 420 kilometer challenge, when I recommended someone set themselves a long ride challenge, I think this is kind of in the same vein as that. And if you have the hours available and you can get a week off work or a week away from everyone, then yeah, why not? Why not go and try and see how far you can ride it within that 1 week period? One of the benefits of doing a week like this is actually it is reasonably specific to actual overall fitness. That one long ride, you feel kind of good for a week or two afterwards because you've just got that long connectivity in your muscles and in your legs. But doing a long week of training like this, I know for a fact that in I don't know, 5-10 days time, I'm going to start to feel really good on the road. I'm quite looking forward to it. In many ways, it felt like a little mini training camp. I paid good attention to what I was eating as the week went on, how well I was sleeping, what time I was going to bed. There were a couple of nights where I just came in and I collapsed on the sofa at 8:30, tried to watch a film and just fell fast asleep. And that was quite nice in a way, because then I knew at least didn't have to worry about the early start in the morning because I was going to bed on time. Right, that's it from me. I'd love to know what the furthest is you've managed to ride in a week. 1,005 kilometers is the furthest that I know that I've done in training. Otherwise, give it a go. Plan properly, make sure you've got food, drink, your bike's up to scratch, and you've got good weather, because that's going to make it that much more enjoyable. Hope you're having a good weekend, and I'll see you all again soon.